All right, all right. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. This is episode 75 of the Launch Sequence podcast. We're doing it live today. We are live on Twitch and YouTube, and I am joined here by a good friend, EnderPrize. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, man. Excited to be here. I'm glad we figured this out, and we're not too late.
There was quite a bit of stuff going on right before this was going. A lot of technical things. I reset the internet and everything crashed and then everything came back, but we made it happen. Thank you so much for joining me today. We've got some good topics here today I've got lined up for us. We're going to be talking about dynamic events, the ones that have been running and we're seeing again now in Star Citizen, and maybe a couple more that might be coming in the future. We're going to be talking about underground facilities and Gen 12, which we saw in Inside Star Citizen, as well as a couple of the topics that came up in Star Citizen Live. But before we dive in, I do need to let everybody know this is the podcast, the Launch Sequence podcast, episode 75. So if you're watching this live on Twitch or YouTube, thank you so much for coming. Was that a 75? Oh, I guess that was
75.
There we go. Finger stuff. Thank you so much for coming if you are watching this live, but also this will be going to all audio platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you want to listen to your podcast. So if you want something Star Citizen to listen to on your commute, I've got you covered. We've got 2 different podcasts going.
Podcast. Sorry.
No. I love the ad-libs. Always need a good ad-lib.
Podcast. Yes, coming at you.
There we go. It's a little bit of puberty. I get it. But anyways, supporters get this format free every or not free, sorry, they are supporters, but they get it every week. They get to come and sit in live, ask us questions, and just chat with the guest before and after the show. But today we will also be doing that. So if you look in the chat and you see a link to share some questions, we'll be having a little Q&A session after this as well, where EnderPrize will answer all your deepest and darkest secrets and questions. And when is Star Citizen coming out, EnderPrize? When is it happening? We're all waiting.
Yeah, true. I've got it. We got to wait. I'll tell you later.
Anyways, with all that nonsense out of the way, thanks again for coming, dude. How have you been? How have you been doing? You were on the other podcast the other week, and we got into a lot of good topics. How's the game been treating you since then?
Oh, I mean, just like, back to work. I stream almost 4-5 days a week playing Star Citizen on Twitch. And I think the post-CitizenCon feeling was a bit of a, excitement ramp up as we all watched SitCon and kind of got into things, and then kind of settled back down into reality because none of the things they talked about yet are really in our hands in any way, you know?
Yeah.
And we're also quite a ways away from, I think, anything particularly new. So I think the community in general is feeling not irritated or agitated, but like kind of inflated, but then like, oh wait, we gotta wait. Okay.
Yeah.
Like temper our expectations, if you will.
It's a pretty common post-CitizenCon feeling too. I think it's better this year because the stuff feels closer, but like every year they'd show like a keynote and you'd be like, oh yes, oh, this is gonna be so cool. And then you're like, wait a second. That's not going to be here anytime soon. Reality sets in. So it's been the same old go around basically since CitizenCon dropped. We're all waiting for 318. That's good to hear though. I mean, at least you're not tearing your eyes out. You're still able to stream the game 4 to 5 times a week. Then you're doing better than me. Because honestly, the game drives me nuts sometimes. I struggle. I don't think my computer's quite made for it though.
Okay. I mean, I'm very careful about what I do in game and how long I spend on that activity.
Yeah.
Back to the whole expectations thing. It's like, I think when you're fresher and newer to Star Citizen, you can play it for hours and hours at length.
Yeah.
And the longer you play the game, the how do I say this? The less patient you are, or for me, the more careful I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you start to know
how
to
manage my own expectations and also not let my own negativity just like rise to the top.
Sure. Yeah. And also avoid glitches is a key part. Well,
yeah, exactly.
EnderPrize, what we do on this podcast, we don't really do it on Citizen Central, but over here, whenever somebody comes on for the first time, I like to dive into kind of what brought them into Star Citizen, how they got into it. Everybody's coming from different directions, whether it's like Star Wars Galaxies or Eve, or you've never played an MMO or something. What is your story? How'd you get here? And how did you start streaming it?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think back in like 2015, so when I built my first powerful gaming PC, like my first dedicated PC that was like, I'm gonna be a gamer, on a PC, right? So at the time, I looked at the two games that were out to play, and it was, in Space World, it was Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen, and Star Citizen wasn't really playable at all yet, so I started playing Elite, and I fell in love with everything Elite Dangerous.
What
So it
year did
became
you
my
say this?
first 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, like the end of 2015.
Mhm.
It became my first love of a video game as an adult, And over the years, I found myself enjoying that game less, and also at the same time, Star Citizen was becoming more and more playable, and we started kind of playing both games, and it just started shifting,
Yeah.
that like my love and interest for one game was diminishing while my love and interest for Star Citizen was increasing and rising.
Mhm.
And then about little over 2 years ago, I think is when I really started focusing more of my content on Twitch, and also just my own mental energy and investment started moving into Star Citizen.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's about when I started to get a little bit more serious about it. I think the persistence was kind of kicking in around that time, and things were just starting to feel more solid. Were you, so I might have missed it. Were you streaming when you were playing Elite Dangerous? Or
Yes,
did you
that's the game that got me to a Twitch partner, and that's the game that made me say to myself, "Hey, maybe I can do this.
Dude,
Maybe this could be my job."
I gotta say, of anybody that I personally know, me and my shiny skin, forgive me guys, it's skincare day. For anybody that I personally know, you have the most impressive stream that I know of, with the multi-camera setups, with the way
Thanks,
that you
man.
can switch cameras with your controls, dude. And you are drumming, man. This dude plays the drums while he's playing video games, while he's talking to people and presenting. Dude, hats off to you for that stuff. It's really
Thanks,
entertaining.
man.
Yeah, that's like what a stream
Thank
should
you.
be, right? Not just
Yeah,
playing a game, but doing something
exactly.
fun with it.
Because like this is not the thing I thought I would ever do. Like I'm a musician. Like I've been playing piano since I was 5, drums since I was 10. I went to Berklee College of Music. I toured extensively all over the US, Europe, Mexico, Canada. Like that was, if we went back in time, probably only like 6 years ago,
Mhm.
I was still touring a lot. And if you had told me that I was going to be in a basement surrounded by cameras and lights and monitors, I would be like, what was I feel like all
Be
the
like,
time?
what's the context there?
Really? Like, it wasn't a plan. It just kind of happened organically from students of mine telling me that I would be a good streamer.
Yeah.
And it was like after enough of my teenage students were like, "Hey, you should stream. I'd watch you." I finally was like, "You know what? Why don't we try it?" So then I just took everything I learned on the road, touring in bands, and tried to apply that to streaming and content creation online. Every single thing I learned on the road, I did here. And so far, it's been working.
Do they watch?
Yeah,
Yeah, any of them drop in?
I do. I do have a couple of my old students that still watch the show, which is great.
Cool. That's pretty cool. I don't know if you're watching the chat while we're doing this live. You are like,
I am.
Feel free to. Generally, won't be answering too much, but they will be talking to you if you want to talk back at any point. Sorry, but let's get into the actual discussion of the day. Now, I want to start off with like a bang. I say we jump right into it. So they have just announced a new run of dynamic events for us in Star Citizen, I think ongoing right now. And we're looking at, I believe, Jumptown 2.0 and Ninetales Lockdown. Now, there are 2 other events, I believe. We got Xenothreat and Siege of Orison, correct? I don't think there are any other ones. Am I missing any?
I don't think so. Everything I know of, you just said.
Okay. So what I want to hear from you is what you understand as the basics of each event and your quick and dirty rating of each, where you rank them and why.
Okay. Which one should we start with?
I guess let's go in backwards chronological order. Yeah, let's start at Siege of Orison.
Okay. So you want me to tell you what I think is the point of that mission?
Yeah, and where it ranks for you.
Got it. All right. So Siege of Orison. For me, this is you and all your friends get together for an FPS adventure. This FPS adventure wait, did we lose connection? Hold on.
Why? Are you? Yeah, I still
We might
see
have. Okay. Okay. Never mind. For a second, I was like,
I still
let me
got
just
you.
start over. So the Siege of Orison is an FPS adventure. In my mind, it is Star Citizen's attempt to say, what if this game didn't have flying spaceships? Like, what if this game was more like boots on the ground, marine kind of combat, Call of Duty kind of thing, right? So you and your friends all go to these floating platforms around Orison, pew-pewing, brain-dead NPCs, and eventually you find a boss on each little platform, and it moves you to the next one. And they do mix in some ships, and there are all these other things happening. But if I'm being honest with you, I have still yet to experience the entire mission where everything worked. And because of that, it lives for me in a very alpha place. Like, I like the idea of the Siege of Orison. I just don't think the game can handle it yet.
Yeah. I think there are quite a few problems with Siege of Orison that stem from the performance itself. This also the design, but a lot of it is the AI really struggles. A lot of people just can't handle it in terms of FPS, so it becomes a hassle just to like get around and coordinate with other people.
I love the environment they built. I just want to say that I think the environments on those platforms are beautiful and varied and interesting, and like as a set design or like level design, I could talk on and on about the positives there. I think the negative is the inability to perform a fun FPS environment hinders me enjoying it.
Yeah, I get that. I think that was a lot of complaints too. I was on InfoRunners the other day. We were talking with Level Cap Gaming, and when it comes to like FPS, he's generally the person that I go to just because that's his sort of thing when it comes to YouTube. But he was also talking a lot about how it just felt like an incomplete set piece from FPS standpoint. Just not as fun as you would really like to see when it comes to a squad-based thing. But I think a lot of it does come down to the performance itself. If the performance was a lot better, even if the game scenario itself wasn't great, it still offers a gameplay experience that you can't really get elsewhere in the game right now.
Yes, what you just said is so critical. Like, think about a game like Call of Duty. In general, nothing storyline that is that outrageous in those matches.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But the experience is why people play that game. It's why there are thousands and thousands playing the brand new Modern Warfare 2 right now. Not for the story, not for the dynamic moment. It's for the pure FPS experience.
And the nostalgia.
And and the nostalgia a little bit. But I think because Star Citizen cannot deliver a quick, fun, and snappy FPS performance, it's why we're having trouble enjoying the Siege of Orison. I think that's the crux of the problem. And it's also why I am worried about trying it out again, because I had such negative experiences already with it.
Yeah, I get that. Here's a question regarding FPS and Siege of Orison in general, then we can get on to another one of the events. But when you look at the FPS gameplay in this game, is it something that you feel is paramount to them getting right? Because the way I generally see it is it's the extra on top of the space sim I'm playing. I'm biased because I'm not a big combat person. But when I think about FPS gameplay in this game, it's much lower on my totem pole than, say, ship combat or mining or like first person devices like the tractor beam or the med tool, things like that. Where does it stand for you in terms of importance?
I think it's absolutely critical that they nail a great FPS experience, because they're trying to make the universe simulation.
The everything
If we
game.
if we look at Chris Roberts' quotes over and over again about this game, about what they're trying to do, for me, that vision is to make an FPS game that feels just as good as playing Escape from Tarkov, as playing Arma, as playing whatever your mind is for a high quality, well laid out FPS game. I think when we get out of our spaceship and boots on the ground, it needs to be that good. Otherwise, we end up in a Elite Dangerous Odyssey situation where we have a great space game with a really kind of lackluster FPS thing attached to it that the majority of the community does not like. And they're like, why is it here? Like, so I think it's critical.
Okay, that's fair. And I think there is an argument to be made that like if the rest of the game is super high in quality, it would be weird to then come across the FPS component and just have it fall flat. There's a lot of conversations to be had about whether they should be focusing on that, whether that makes the space game better or not, and all that stuff. But we can leave that for another day. Overall, where do you put Siege of Orison on your, let's say, scale of 1 to 10? We'll make it easy. Or we'll do scale of Aurora to Bangle.
Dude,
pick an arbitrarily sized ship.
Dude, what's so hard about that is that I have to say it where the game is now. Where the game is now, dude, like a 1 out of 10, man, I don't know, a 6. Yeah.
Okay. A 6. Cool.
And I feel bad because I know how many cool things are in there. And I know how many people have put all this effort and all this work into it. And like, if I look at it from a designer perspective, I can appreciate all those things. But as a player, I can't give it more than a 6.
Yeah. I always get into this conversation of how it's like the difference between being excited about the game to play and excited about the things they're doing to make the game. It's two different channels of thinking. And if you're more interested in the game that's being played now, I think it ends up being more frustrating in the moment. So I get what you're saying. You want to judge it by how they want it to play out. But as of right now, I try to at least tell people what they're getting into now. Because you tell them, oh yeah, this is going to be a really cool event, and then they get in there like, but that part's not in there yet. Okay, so a 6, a good middle of the park. Let's tackle the next one. What was the next most recent event introduced before that?
I think Ninetales.
Was it Ninetales? Yeah. No. It would have been Jumptown, right? Wasn't Jumptown 2 just like a year ago?
Jumptown 2. Yes, you're right. Jumptown 2.
Yeah. So how do you feel about that one?
I like Jumptown more. Much more than Siege of Orison. I think because it performs better. Like the actual performance of playing the event is not as jarring or game breaking as Siege of Orison. And that makes sense because Siege of Orison has so many moving parts.
Yeah.
There's so many platforms. There's so many different AIs that need to spawn in and out. And Jumptown is a pure PvP arena, When I think about performance issues, the biggest one, the first time we saw it, were all those headless T-pose, Scott Stapp, arms
dominating
wide open
T-pose.
characters everywhere. Like that was one of the worst things about the first time. But if I erase that, I had a lot of fun with our org. Like we had quite a few streams where we just like held the location with like ballista on like, mountain peaks on each side. And it was really fun. And I think when everything functioned and when there wasn't a game-breaking glitch or whatever, it was one of those perfect moments where you're like, dude, this is what the game could be like one day,
Yeah, I get those feelings. I know what you mean. And I agree. The moving parts in Siege make Jumptown a lot more interesting choice. It's also PvP. And while I'm not really a PvP player, I will always agree that other players involved makes things more interesting. So right there and then, it's easy to get a very different experience with Jumptown every week you play it, as opposed to Siege, which kind of will always play out pretty similar. Have you played any of the newest one this week? I don't know if it started for this week or not, but have you been able to jump in?
Oh, well, I mean, literally jump in. 2 days ago, I just flew close to a jump. Like, I was like, oh, let's fly in there. Why not? No plan. Let's just fly in. So I flew in, and then boom, I got one shot by a railgun.
Dang, that's a good eye.
It was blasphemous.
Were you moving quick?
Was just chilling. Yeah, I was going slow, and he was just standing on the ground. I didn't see him, and he one-tapped me with the railgun.
Wow.
That's when I was like, okay, so railguns can one-tap an arrow or a gladius. Good to know.
That's hardcore. Jeez. The whole ground to air combat thing is interesting. I think right now it's still kind of weird. I mean, for various reasons, there are a lot of holes in it, but it is exciting that was my fantasy when we were playing Battlefront 2, like back in 2005, and they'd have you do the fights from ground to space to in spaceship. Mm-hmm. That was what I was always thinking: get spaceships and actually fight people on the ground. So things like Jumptown and getting blown up by railguns, it's very fun.
I think there's a lot that CIG needs to do in balancing, like what you just said, the air to ground combat. And we all know there's a lot of strong feelings about how the bomb from the A2 plays into all of this. But ultimately, I think it's good old PvP fun, where the crew that wants it the most and works the hardest to organize is always going to prevail and triumph. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of cool for this event. That's what this event should be.
And
it's made for that. The pre-production, the planning,
and
the domination, that's what it's for.
And how do you feel about the different ways people do it? Do you think that there's a right or wrong way? Because a lot of people say, screw the Congo lines. This is supposed to be something more violent and aggressive. And other people are saying, hey, you know what? You can't just come in and kill everybody just because they're standing there. Do you have a preferred method?
No. Like, I think a PvP environment that is a sandbox needs to be however you want to play that out. Like, if you're on a server where everyone is like in global chat, just being like, hey, do you want to get some boxes? And I'm like, yeah, I want to get some boxes. And you just all make a line and you conga line it, have fun. And then someone's like, well, I have an A2, and they just decide to bomb you. Like, that's fine. I think that's interesting and kind of exciting. I think the only time it becomes a problem is when one method becomes too strong to control the whole thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Like what I just said. What if every server had like 25 people with A2s who just constantly bombarded the Jumptown location?
Yeah. Sounds like Quantum needs to raise the price of bombs.
Yeah, like I think for where the game is at right now, I think Jumptown is really fun.
Mm-hmm. What would you give it?
When it works, dude, Jumptown, right now, I'm gonna give it an 8.
8 out of 10. Not bad. Pretty good. Pretty solid. I like it too. I enjoy Jumptown. It gives you there are a lot of different things that can happen, and it's a bummer that you need to be in a group to have a really good time doing it. But people are friendly, other groups will let you join them, tons of orgs and like discords that you can join and get involved. So I don't think that's too much of a barrier, but I will say that it would be nice if there was something that allowed solo players also to have as custom and interesting an experience as Jumptown allows for groups.
Yeah, that's probably the only negative there. But then again, not every event can be everything to everyone.
Exactly. Yeah.
And because if Siege of Orison actually was well performing, you could be a solo person and jump into that and like have a good time because it's a PvE situation. Like you just meet people on the little train and you're like, hey, are you going there? Cool. Can I follow you? Okay.
Yep.
So I think it's totally okay that some events are made for groups and some are made more for a solo thing.
That's how this game's built. Not everybody's going to like everything.
I'm going to add one thing here.
Okay.
Back to the solo Jumptown thing. Here's a way that you could imagine enjoying Jumptown solo. If we actually had reliable stealth mechanics, you could fly in or drive in and like hide in the mountains and like just be a sneaky sniper, just like bothering people. You know, that could be a solo gameplay. Or if there was some way to sneak in without being detected, like if we had reliable stealth, that could be a total solo gameplay mechanic.
Yeah, stealth and the FPS scanning mechanics in general are going to be super, super helpful to improve the game. Sorry, everybody, we got Call to Prayer going on in the background.
Yeah, no problem.
How about we move on to the next one then? And I believe that would be the Ninetales Lockdown. Give me your summary of that one.
Got it. So I think Ninetales is my favorite dynamic event in the game because it focuses on ship-to-ship combat, something that I think the game is the best at right now. I think flying a ship and pew-pewing at another ship is the most refined gameplay mechanic in all of Star Citizen. We have so many spaceships. What is there? Like, if we count all the variations, it's got to be like over 100 ships right now.
Yeah, over 100, yeah.
And the Ninetales Lockdown is the only time you're ever going to see multiple fully crewed hammerheads engaged in a battle that lasts more than 1 minute. Because if you go into a ERT mission in a fully crewed hammerhead, it's over in minutes typically. And I think that's why Ninetales is so cool, because you'll see hammerheads, you'll see caterpillars, you'll see reclaimers, you'll see all these big ships getting into these combat scenarios that normally never get used outside of a screenshot party or like a ship show party park somewhere, you know?
I do hope
so
that
I like it.
I agree with you there. I hope that they can improve the overall feel of Ninetales Lockdown. I think that was going to be their big test bed for kind of like quantum changing prices and stuff, and that hasn't really happened. So it feels like a very empty experience, kind of.
Did you notice how I didn't say anything about that? Like I didn't say anything about the
just talking about
buying
the combat
and selling aspect.
Yeah.
Because that part, I agree. It's not ready. And honestly, I don't care as much about that, because what works great in Star Citizen is flying around in one ship and fighting with another ship. And like, for me, the Ninetales Lockdown combat is some of the best combat I've seen in terms of a large group of people.
That's interesting.
And I also, I think it's I know we haven't talked about Xeno yet, but I thought the Ninetales combat was more intense and more relentless than the Xenothreat combat. And that could just be my perception, maybe the server that I was in.
I don't know.
But like one of the only times I can ever remember having like being like tired from like flying and shooting, like my arms getting tired. I'm like, dude, we've been fighting for like how long? Like a straight hour?
Getting those
was Ninetales.
Getting those 0G sweats in.
I also like the like little breaks between combat where you can kind of, well, not kind of, but you fly over and look for the wrecked ship and go inside and have that little FPS moment, because I think FPS in Star Citizen is great when it is a short, controlled environment.
Wait, you're saying, does that happen in Ninetales Lockdown?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was only Xenothreat that happened in.
Well, is my brain? Wait a minute. Whoa. Wait a minute. Am I getting it mixed up?
I mean,
I think I am.
I don't play Ninetales enough to know, but
you're right. No, I just got it. I got it twisted in my brain. You are correct.
Xenothreat over here, like, you taking away our positives. Okay, well, Ninetales Lockdown. So the trading and kind of more economy side of it, which honestly is like, if you look at the dynamic events we've been talking about, this would be the only aspect of a dynamic event that isn't combat focused. So unfortunately, that's what drags it down.
Isn't it funny that all I focused on was the combat part of it?
I just like, everything combat focused with these dynamic events works in some way. And then the only event that has something that's not combat focused that's the one thing that's bad about it, unfortunately. Yeah. But what
they
would
need to get that. You're correct.
Yeah, definitely.
You're correct, dude. If we look at the event as what it's supposed to be, what you just said, having the trading aspect of it, which is not really there, we can't give it a high score because it's missing that large component, right?
Yeah, really though. And so is the rest of the game. That magical quantum simulation, we need that. That's really hurting that we don't even get to hear about it, really. And I do see in chat that somebody did confirm there are medical supplies in Rex that you can find during Ninetales. So maybe you're not misremembering.
Oh, okay. So maybe I do remember that part of it. Okay, cool.
So with that, then, what would you rate it?
Man, I don't know. Let's see. If I gave Origin a 6 and I gave Jumptown an 8, I'm going to give this one a 7.
Oh, so you'd say it's better than Siege?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I think it's better than Siege.
Okay.
Because Siege performs very poorly.
Right. You're looking at
almost everyone's machine.
The whole picture.
And the AI involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then let's move on to the first that we got, the one that introduced dynamic events to us, Xenothreat. We already kind of got started on it. Give us the lowdown on that.
Oh, yeah. Xenothreat is the best one. Xenothreat's the best one. It has all of the ship-to-ship battle, like Star Warsian epic moments that you could imagine. And you get to hop out of your ship and fight your way through some derelict sites. Yeah, it's all wins. It has that fun, no quantum aspect where you have to which I hope they add more to.
Yeah.
I don't want to get to the adding stuff, but it's great. It's my favorite one.
Yeah, it might not be super Siege of Orison has a lot of moving parts. Xenothreat is relatively simple in comparison, but it really manages to hit a lot of interest. I mean, I know I said that all of the other ones were combat focused besides Ninetales, but Xenothreat does have a little bit of that cargo hauling kind of gameplay where you get the stuff and take it over to the station. And that
everybody gets that mouse wheel workout trying to throw those boxes.
Yes, flinging them. I love, dude, that is one of the coolest parts. One of the coolest experiences for me is when you're in the back of that Starfare, you're getting that loot. You need it to complete the job. You got people out here flying past. You can see them blowing ships up, defending you, and you're chucking boxes across in 0G and watching them fall into the cargo ship as somebody receives them. It's that is what the game is, and Xenothreat does a good job of that.
That was the first time we got to see the tractor beams used in a critical way.
Yeah.
We're oh, this is how the tractor beams work. Okay,
wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you don't know what the event is. I think everyone here listening does, but if you don't, imagine getting into a huge space battle with everybody, and then you break into a broken ship and grab all the goods, throw that into your ship, and then drive it. Well, fly it, not drive it in space. Fly out to deliver that said cargo.
It's like UEE Christmas. They're yes, cargo, more.
It's really, and then of course it was the first time that we got to fight an Idris, I think was during Xenothreat.
Yep.
I think that was the premiere of the Idris in battle.
And seeing
also the first time we saw, and the Javelin, those SDF shields, first time we saw those was during this event.
Yep. We got to get some lore start to be built more into the gameplay to give us some more background on what's actually going on in the star system. That's pretty cool.
I think before they upped the server count, it was my first time being in a full server where our party had 50 something people in it.
Jeez.
That was the first time I'd ever done that, was the premiere of Xenothreat.
Yeah. It's a cool event. There's a lot they can do with it too. One thing that I really, really hope we get to see with this event at some point, and I think this will only work really if it becomes kind of a smaller event and there aren't as many people involved. So I don't know how that would work, but if it somehow became a situation where you have to disable and board the Xenothreat ships and like either take somebody out FPS or like capture something off the ship, or just cause there to be like a third segment where you're boarding the ship and actually fighting on the inside. I think that'd be a really cool.
Agreed.
Yeah. But
I think them working in the 0G inside ships into this event would also be great, because now we have those derelict, those reclaimer missions.
Yeah,
where
right.
the gravity can be on or off in certain parts of the ship. I think adding that element to Xenothreat would be great. So you go into a ship and sometimes there's gravity and then sometimes there's not. That could be very cool. Let's see. Oh, this is something that chat's talking about that I also want to mention. The biggest difficulty with Xenothreat in terms of the getting the boxes is that if you have a mouse that has a locking scroll wheel, it is very tiring to flick forward and flick backward over and over again, controlling those the tractor beams.
Yeah, that's why I stick to these.
CIG needs to add some kind of button that has maybe momentum in it that will automatically throw it the distance. I don't know.
Let's be honest. It's the PC peripheral market is kind of exploding with that kind of custom stuff lately. So I wouldn't be surprised if these space sims start to get more popular. You see more stuff like that, especially with other sims like Farming Simulator and all that stuff. Just more little custom controls. Analog control is great. We love that. Please, more of that stuff.
Well, I mean, I say this like all the time on stream when people talk about why Star Citizen, why play this game, why it's not done yet, it's never coming out, it's never going to be out, dude. Why
are you wasting your why?
Like, so one of the things you can do in Star Citizen that you can't do in like very many games, maybe one other, is fly a ship in 6 degrees of freedom with all analog joysticks.
You can't do that in Elite?
Dangerous. It's the only other one. Elite. That's it. Yes, I know DCS. Yeah, but those aren't spaceships. Like, to be able to have full analog control of all 6 degrees of movement in a game is really cool. I
think X4 probably
what made
has
me
that.
fall in love. I don't think X4 can do it. Chat, tell us. Tell us, chat.
I fly around in X4 in all directions. I don't know how it works with joysticks though, so I can't explain that part. But anyways,
either way,
Xenothreat. Before we get too distracted, what would you rate that one?
9.
9.
It's a 9.
The winner then. Xenothreat is the best event in your opinion.
It's a winner. Let's go over why it's a winner.
Okay.
1, if you have a group of people, it's amazing because how many opportunities do you have to full crew ships and go out into combat scenarios that last more than a few minutes? Very, very few of them. All right, so that's great for groups. If you're a solo person, you can just jump right in and also have fun. Any small combat ship, you're going to be able to hang and help everybody fight because there's lots of other people fighting at the same time. And as long as you don't try to 1v1 like the Idris and like not move and look at it in the face, like you're going to be able to fly around. Or if you don't even have a combat ship, if you have only an Aurora, you could still look for one of those derelict, dead ships and work your way onto it. And I bet a bigger ship's going to show up in the hangar bay, and all of a sudden you're helping. All of a sudden you're throwing boxes, you're using global chat, or you're using VoIP. One of the first times I ever used push-to-talk VoIP to talk with randoms in the game was during Xenothreat.
Gosh, I wish it worked more reliably. I'd use it all the time.
I know. That's another issue. But when it does work, it creates these moments where you can just meet the community, make friends.
Yeah, I love that.
All of a sudden, you're playing this game.
I need more of that.
So I think Xenothreat has something for everyone. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
It's the best event.
They can, and obviously there's tons of room for improvement and there are ways for them to add new gameplay. I'm super excited though to see how these events change with new gameplay coming online and what they can add into them to make them better. I'm a little disappointed in how they've progressed because like he said just now, Xenothreat in your opinion is the best one. I also think it's up there. Maybe there's one that's close second behind it, but really the first event still seems to hold the crown for the most well-rounded event so far, and they haven't really been super combat focused. But back in 2021, when Tony Z was giving us the explanation of Quantum and Quasar and Odin and how they run dynamic events, he gave us a little sneak peek. He said that Xenothreat had launched, and the next ones I'm reading here were Fleet Week, Ninetales, and something called Infiltrator. Now, there were other choices on the screen, but they were kind of demos and experiments and other stuff. But the one he mentioned by name was Infiltrator, and we don't know anything about that. What does that sound like to you? What do you think that could be as a dynamic event?
I have no idea. Every Tony Z talk is so dense. You have to watch the whole thing, then you have to go watch the Nubifier video. I have absolutely no clue what infiltrator means. It could be something that so infiltration. Do you think that could have any connection to some of these new mission types they're talking about?
I don't know. I hesitate to think it has anything to do with hacking. I almost want to imagine it's some kind of a small group mission, but I just don't know how they could make a dynamic event limited to certain numbers of people. So I'm not.
I mean, he also could have been talking about what became like Orison stuff too.
Yeah, and Siege of Orison, as somebody said in chat, could be what Infiltrator became. They could have just scrapped it as a concept overall. There's a lot of options in how it could have gone. But what would be a dynamic event that you would like to see? In let's say in current games, something that might come out potentially in the next year or two, considering the features that we know are over the horizon.
I don't know. It's hard to say, but it would be nice to have a new dynamic event that has something to do with mining, because there is no mining connection to really anything. We have no mining missions. So maybe I'm getting ahead of myself asking for a mining aspect of a dynamic event when we still don't even have a mission that's like, go mine X amount of this and bring it here, which, by the way, is a mission type they should have. Like, that seems like a really easy mission type, but never mind. So yeah, I think a mining thing could be cool. I know we don't know what hacking is going to become, but even what are those missions right now where you have to go to that crashed satellite? You have to get those like AI server units. You know what I'm talking about?
Little blades out of the satellite. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think it could be cool if there was some kind of dynamic mission that wasn't in one location, that was across the whole Stanton system with like crashed satellites everywhere. And you have to go collect all of those server blades, kind of spreading everything out. That could be kind of fun.
Yeah. I
don't think every dynamic event has to be a humongous deal. Like, I don't think they all need to be this like super epic moment that forces the entire community to be a part of it.
Right.
It would be cool to see a few that are a little bit more like big missions, instead of everyone stop what you're doing and you need to do this.
That's why I'm kind of wondering, how do they limit them? How do they localize it so that not everybody is jumping on it as soon as it spawns? There's just not enough content in the game to distract people from all going to the same dynamic event at the same time, right?
What if they could launch multiple at the same time? What if they could launch two of them at once?
That would help. Then they'd have people going to two things, because there's still not enough normal content to distract from them. But that's an interesting what if. I wonder what the next dynamic event might be. But more so, I'm wondering when they'll actually be dynamic, because they're still not dynamic.
Correct. Yep. They're triggered off by, CIG.
Right.
Deciding there's like a big switch on the wall, and they just like pull the crank down, jump town, go.
Do you think, in terms of what we were just talking about, like how people will just jump on a mission if it spawns, do you think that it would even make sense for them to make them dynamic right now? Because there's not enough content. People might farm the situation to make the dynamic event happen, and then people would go jump into it, and then 10 hours later somebody else does it, and we're just constantly running through it because there's not enough distractions.
Yeah, with where we are in the game right now, I don't think it's a bad thing that they're not dynamic, because you are correct. I think it's going to be when CIG rolls out a system of events that triggers a kind of dynamic mission event, you're right. The community is going to figure out and test and try to fabricate and try to manufacture these events, which in its own way could be fun and could be something interesting to do on stream, because as you just said, there's not a lot of things to do in this game. So I could definitely see myself trying to create an event, convincing everyone in chat to like do a certain thing or buy a certain commodity, to trigger that.
Yeah, just over and over again, which would get old very
but
fast.
Then again, CIG might like that for testing reasons, at least for a little while.
That's fair. I wonder that, because as you say, they like them for testing reasons. I'm like, when are we gonna be? How much do we bang our heads against this before it's enough testing? But I guess that's for them to decide.
Yeah, I think what's funny is that when we look at all of these missions in general, like if we look at every dynamic event we've had in the game, right? I don't think it's any surprise that Xenothreat is the best one, because what's the main thing you do in Xenothreat? You fly in one spaceship and you shoot against another spaceship. And that is still the best mechanic that Star Citizen has. Why is Siege of Orison the worst dynamic event? Because it is FPS battle on the ground. I would say one of the worst experiences in the game right now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how many spices and how much seasoning is around the gameplay. If the core gameplay that you're doing is not fun, it's going to put a negative spin on everything.
Yep. And that's why the performance issues are just so hampering to the game. Like, people say, oh yeah, this game's got enough content that if it came out, I'd be playing it regularly. And it's like, yeah, but the performance is going to just make it a mess for even the most enthusiastic players right now. So hopefully Gen 12 does have a positive effect, and hopefully server meshing, whatever decade that does come, also helps a lot with the load going into each server.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was a pretty good amount of talk about surrounding these dynamic events. Why don't we go ahead and jump into the week's news regarding Star Citizen? And about halfway through the pod, a little past, actually quite a bit past halfway through the podcast, anybody who's here and listening, if you're live, you are able to submit questions for our little Q&A session afterward. If you are listening to this after the fact on whatever audio platform you might be on, consider supporting the podcast. Everybody who supports gets to come into these podcasts live every week, not just the ones that we do live on stream. So thank you if you do. We appreciate that. Now let's talk about Inside Star Citizen this last week, which was a new format, and they talked about underground facilities and Gen 12. What was your opinions on the underground facilities?
Oh, I loved that episode. Like, the latest episode of ISC was awesome. I really like the bunker missions, because even though I just trashed on FPS in the game, when it is a small, condensed FPS environment, I feel like it works well enough and you can have fun and then be done with it, because you're not there for a half hour, 40 minutes. You're there for like 10, 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So I really liked seeing the new designs for underground bunker missions, because of course we have what do we have? Technically two layouts, is it? Or is it one layout with different?
It's like a couple different layouts, but they're basically all the same.
Yeah, they're almost all the same. So it was very cool to see these new locations. I really like the kind of circular, almost like train-like tube that we could see. Like, I don't know if that's for a train or if that's for like construction equipment. I thought that was awesome. I like the different elevator levels, the kind of oversea like glass box. Like, I imagined it's like a factory that we saw the other day.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. And also, this is not necessarily on topic, but they're doing some new production techniques on Inside Star Citizen this week. I don't know if they got new camera operator or different editor or whatever, but I noticed quite a few different production details that I've really enjoyed. Great job, CIG.
Yeah, I think they definitely stepped up the quality there, which is nice. It was due a refresh. It had lost a lot of that sort of we are amongst the developers feel after COVID, and they kind of were all in their own places. So now having the kind of over-the-shoulder third-person view of the devs and doing actual in-person interviews was really nice to get back to.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. When you saw these underground facilities at CitizenCon, while they did have the title Journey to 4.0 on all of the panels, I struggled to imagine that all of those things would actually be ready by 4.0. Were you thinking that these were actually going to be something that, because Jared did confirm during the episode, this is something that they're expecting for next year. Obviously, that can always slip, but they are expecting it for next year at 4.0 in some way to be ready. Were you expecting that?
I don't like to expect too much of anything, you know, like, I really try hard to not get too excited on a timeline when
That's
I watch any video, because I've been let down. I've only been in this game for 2 years, and I've been like slapped around quite a bit with like dates and me inventing dates, because they're very good. They rarely give you the exact time or anymore, you know? But I like to just take everything with a, wow, that would be cool. Hope we get that soon kind of feeling.
Yeah, that's a good idea to go with it. So it was just a pleasant surprise for you then. I mean, again, saying pleasant surprise feels a little disingenuous because we all know there's a really good chance that they'll slip. But at least as of now, it looks like they've got about a 12-month cycle planned for like tier 0 of we'll assume small versions of these underground facilities.
Yeah.
But let's talk about tier 0 for a second, because that's kind of confusing, right? Everybody they kind of told everybody we wouldn't have tier 0 anymore, and now they're saying there's tier 0. I have a theory on it. Would you like to go first?
No, I want to hear yours.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So the tier 0, the thing that they said about it being no more tier 0s, only tier 1s, all seemed to correspond to the Squadron 42 actor feature teams, all the teams that were under, I believe, Richard Tyrer and the people in that segment. Whereas the EU Sandbox team, who's working on these underground facilities, are only Star Citizen focused. So they don't have that whole work on it for Squadron, get it more polished and in tier 1 quality for Star Citizen. And that's why I feel, or I believe, they probably are introducing this location as tier 0, because it's not one of those sorts of features. That's my take. What do you think?
Oh, okay. I always get confused with tier 0 versus tier 1. If I'm also being honest, like, what is the clinical definition difference between tier 0 and tier 1? Can you tell me?
No, not with locations, and it's always got to be changing, right?
Yeah.
Because we're going to have resource management in a year. So does tier 0 include that, or does tier 1?
This is a great question.
Yeah. So
one that I don't know the answer to.
I don't think we've ever seen a location referred to as tier 0 or tier 1, so I have no idea what it could mean either. And that's why I'm not going to put too much emphasis on it. But I think that was probably going to be confusing in the long run, that they are referring to it as tier 0.
Yeah, it's a great thing to bring up, because, you know, all we have to go on with the development of this game are the wonderful videos and posts they put out, you know, and we learn this lingo. There is definitely a Star Citizen developer lingo that people that don't follow this game have no idea about, or only if they work in game dev might they be able to be like, oh, I know what that means. Where if you showed one of these videos to, let's say, someone who is a really, really big Fall Guys player, like they're going to be like, what? Yeah, like, so I also often go like, what are they saying? And I'll pause episodes of ISC and be like, chat, what does that mean? What? And like, some people will know and some people won't.
Yeah, and sometimes they,
I think
they call
yeah.
things different things too. Gets confusing.
Mhm.
So
Even when you sent me the message about today's show and you said UGF, I was like, UGF underground facility.
there it is.
Like I
Yeah.
didn't know what it meant immediately.
That
I
happened
had
to
to
me
look it
too.
up.
That happened. The first time somebody said it to me, I was like, "Wait a second, what is that?" Now I'm in the know. See, now I'm typing out the lingo. I'm like, "Yeah, UGF. I'm in the. I know Star Citizen. That's right." It spreads like a virus. So these locations are a kind of new place. I'm actually very surprised by how much effort and time they're putting into them, but it feels like they're almost bringing them up to the level of importance as like an outpost or a space station, or even like a landing zone. It's a lot of development going into these. Do you think that they're going to be mainly just mission spaces, kind of dungeons for players, or do you think we might see it as also a social space like the outposts are, have resource management or other reasons to go there?
I think everything that gets built and put into Star Citizen needs to have multiple ways it can be used. Multiple facets can go to it, right? So I'm looking at the pictures right now to keep it in my brain from yesterday's episode. And initially, they could just be an underground FPS battle arena that you fly to, go inside, finish the mission, fly away, and that's it. And that's probably how they're going to launch in the game. I think when they launch in the game, there will just be a defend the installation kind of mission that happens there, right? But I don't think that's going to be all they are moving forward because there's so many moving parts, so many aspects to it. I could see these same locations being used for cargo hauling or package delivery or export, like landing and then using those trucks. Cause I'm looking at this image of these huge trucks moving into a loading bay.
Yeah.
Like I could see a mission where you go there and pick up a bunch of cargo and fly it away. Or the same location is a pew pew guns blazing kind of mission.
Right. So kind of like how outposts are already, just underground. You can fly to an outpost, land at the pad, load up your cargo. These would also act as standalone economic nodes with their own kind of trades and resources. I hope that they specialize kind of the same way that they're showing us that there are going to be mining outposts and refining outposts. Wouldn't it be really cool to be able to land in this place and like deliver your minerals down to an underground refinery or something?
Oh yeah, especially if you mined them yourself. Instead of mining and then going to the refinery and then putting it in the machine and then refining it and then going to sell it, like just bringing the raw materials to a location like this could be very cool. And again, mining has not been talked about for a long time. I feel like, do we have tier 1 mining? I don't even know what the tier is.
I think it's at least tier 1 because they've added
like
consumables, they've added gadgets, they've added different mining laser types, they've added different types of mining. So I think we're past tier 0 at this point.
Yeah, it's like mining has gotten more and more confusing and more complex, but we still don't have mission types for it. And I think because of that, it's very scattered within the community of who engages in that and who doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, and I think about salvage coming online, I don't know, soonish. Like, I think it'll be a similar thing where it'll be like the beginnings of mining, but we probably won't have any missions around it yet. It'll probably be still cloaked in confusion.
I hope not.
And it's like when they give us more and more things to do, that's great. But without mission types to guide the player to know how to do a good job, it can be confusing. It can be awkward.
Yeah, it definitely.
Like, how do you? Yeah,
having missions be the thing that teach people how the features work is something we need a lot of, and there's just it doesn't happen. Like, you don't ever actually learn to use the tractor beam because you're just told to go get boxes. There's no reason to think you would need the tractor beam until some random person comes up and goes, "Hey kid, you wanna buy a tractor beam?" And opens his jacket and like it's got the handles hanging there. So yeah, I agree. Having a reason, like a mission that actually points you towards mining and even points you towards a certain type of mineral would be good. I thought that's what what's her name was going to be. Well, what is the woman who was at Delamar? She has the robotic leg.
Oh, is this a mission giver?
Yeah, the mission giver, red hair.
I don't remember her name.
Yellow
Chat,
shirt.
maybe
What is her
chat
name?
knows.
Help us, chat. Oh gosh, what was it? It was, I keep thinking Clovis. That's definitely not her name. No, I'm not going to remember it. But I always thought that her thing was going to be sending you to get mining missions since she's sitting inside of a giant mining boring hole in this asteroid. But I don't know if that was ever even a thing.
I think, well, I mean, we can't say this and not talk about it now, but like the mission givers in general, they need more.
Yeah.
They need more to do in the game. Like, I think you can easily spend weeks.
That was it.
Got
it.
There we go.
Good old
You can easily spend
memory.
weeks and weeks playing this game and never talk to any of the mission givers.
Yeah. Most people don't even know they exist.
Yeah.
I've not done a mission for a mission giver. I did one for Twitch in the last couple of weeks, but I haven't done one for them in a long time. I think what happened was like they just realized that the mission givers do not perform under the current load because they had two more mission givers planned for Orison and another one planned for Microtech, right? They had the bartender at Microtech and then the two advocacy agents at Orison that were supposed to come in. I think they were just like, these are broken. There's no point in putting a lot of effort into them. Let's sideline them until like server meshing makes things a little easier. Yeah, because trying to do a mission for any of them is, like you said, it's miserable. And they don't even know if they're actually working well if people can't complete the mission anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's move on to Gen 12, which was the last thing they talked about inside Star Citizen. Some pretty cool. I think it was a great presentation. Sylvan really made it.
It was a wonderful presentation.
Yeah, put it into fantastic visuals.
I think in terms of a technical concept being explained through the lens of ISC, it was the best I've seen them do. Like, I think it was the best example of a very technical new thing because of just how well it was said. And also I really like the gameplay footage we saw with the specs online. And there was this one moment where we saw this screenshot of some kind of dev screen that I've never seen. You know what I'm talking about? They showed us that dev screen with all of the render load times.
All the different frames, the packets.
Yeah, it was like one frame. Like that screenshot of a one frame and showing like,
all the things
here's what the load is like in Gen 11.
Yeah.
And here's what it's like in Gen 12. I thought that was a really wonderful visual, especially for me, someone who is not a programmer at all.
Us plebs.
To be like, whoa, I understand this now. Good job.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a great, freaking fantastic representation. Now, I can't look at that and quantify what that's going to mean for the gameplay, but I can see after all this time and literally all this time they've been talking about Gen 12 and the renderer and building it into the engine and optimizing the frames for years. And we've constantly been told about how the rendering thread is this hang up and like the main thread needs to get separated and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And then just that like 10 minutes was such a great opportunity just to look at it. Step one, step two, here's the results. I love that.
Agree. Great job, CIG, on that one.
So in terms of what it's actually going to be doing for us, they talk about how it kind of helps with CPU bottlenecked machines. Is that something that you deal with ever?
I don't think I am who they're talking to there, because my rig has a 5950X in it. So if like the moments, because we all know Star Citizen is not optimized at all. We all know.
Really?
We all know this.
Wait,
yeah, exactly.
no.
We all know this.
Oh, come on.
And when you play this game with a top tier CPU like a 5950X and a top GPU like a 6950 XT, like when you've got the best spec or into the new stuff that just came out,
the goods,
and you still hit these moments where you're like, oh man, like it still drops down. That's when you know that there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done because you're using some of the best gear that you could buy,
Mhm.
and you're still not getting that minimum 60 all the time. And then you think about what's it like on older hardware? What's it like
I can
on
tell you.
like, dude, like it's got to be slideshow citizen. Like
Yeah.
Gen 12, let's all hope, really helps get the frames and gets the performance for some lower tier hardware, because until you don't need the ultimate best PC, we're always going to struggle to have more and more players in this community.
Yeah.
And I hope that not only do I hope Gen 12 increases the performance for people's machines. I don't know if this is true or not, but I hope that the graphic sliders in the game
Yep.
will start to do something.
Yep.
Because currently, graphic sliders in the game are more like a placebo. Like the only one that ever has helped me in any way is the clouds one, like volumetric clouds. Otherwise, they all just seem the same. And I feel like I've gotten a similar answer from chat. I'd be like, do you guys notice these quality differences doing anything for you?
Yeah, it's very minimally noticeable. I agree. That's like one of the big things, just giving us actual quality of graphics, sliders, and settings. It's going to be really, really nice.
And I know that's not something that happens overnight. Like clearly, it doesn't happen overnight. They have to. I don't know about game design. I'm not a dev. I understand this. But I do know that if you have an integrated graphics machine only,
oh boy,
you can put Apex Legends down to the lowest Minecraft block style and actually still play that game. It looks terrible, but it will still run, you know?
Good for them.
I look forward to the day where Star Citizen can have some graphics sliders that let you put this game into mega low poly mode and still do something.
Playing Star Citizen on integrated graphics.
Yeah.
Your PC just spontaneously combusts.
Yeah, I know.
But when it does come to Gen 12, and I try not to overhype myself on it, I do see some legitimate improvements actually coming to the game from this. Like, obviously you don't want to get expectations too high, but like, this is not just it'll enter the game and it'll kind of have like some effect, but you probably won't feel it until so and so and so and so. Like, this is something that's gonna start to make real differences in people's performance.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, I just lost my train of thought. But
oh no.
But what else do you hope that it does bring to the game? Like, it's going to optimize the game, but it's also going to make other things possible. Ray tracing, FSR, DLSS, global illumination, VR, possibly. What's like your wish list of graphical things that it can help with after they've finally got it optimized, Vulkan APIs working, all that stuff?
All right. Well, the first thing is technology like NVIDIA's DLSS and AMD's Fidelity Super Resolution is incredible. Like, if anyone out there has ever played a game that has those features, like, I don't know, Cyberpunk, and run it at your settings, right? Play the game without it on and look at your frames, and then turn it on and look at your frames, they are so much better. Like, that technology is incredible, and it helps people to play games, especially in 4K. Like, 4K gaming was almost impossible, and only for the highest tier of rigs before DLSS and FSR was released.
Yeah.
Now that those techs are out, the games where they work, you get like, sometimes you'll get an extra like 20 FPS, and that might be the difference between having a lock 60 and having a 40, you know, with 60-ish moments, you know? So I think being able to get that tech into this game is going to be really helpful for people running the game.
Yeah.
And again, the more people that can run the game and look at it and go, I'm having fun, the better it is for the community, the better it is for the dynamic events, which are reliant on more and more people joining in and actually engaging and having fun. So I'm all in for the, what do we call that? What's the technical definition of those two techs? AI upscale?
Upscaling, Really?
Because I know that it has to do with taking your game and playing it at a lower resolution and then upscaling it and then using some AI to like play with stuff in the background. Yeah, either way, it's really cool tech. I love it.
Yeah, that will be cool, especially because this game looks amazing at high resolutions with the contrast that it has and the detail of the planets. Looks
Star
great.
Citizen is one of the most beautiful games in the world.
Yeah.
Like the visuals in Star Citizen right now are more impressive than almost any AAA game. And I think those of us who get to play it daily and look at this game all the time, we get spoiled by the graphical resolution and the fine detail that this game gives us.
It's so interesting how many people, how different people's opinions are on the graphics. I don't know if people are like trying to troll when they say it, but you'll find people who are like, oh, this game's falling behind in the industry. Like it's just not look. I mean, obviously, like they can improve graphics as time goes on, so I don't think that's really that big of a problem. But it's interesting because you'll hear people say this is a great looking game, it's amazing, and you'll hear other people say this game's falling behind. It no longer has that special look to it anymore. And I think it might depend on what you're looking at. But.
No, anyone that says that latter statement you just said is totally incorrect. If you are flying any ship, right, just outside of atmosphere of any planet, and you have a high spec machine, we're talking like top of the line CPU, GPU, 32 gigs of RAM, all that, and you're in third person and you can see the star kind of coming up from behind the planet, and you see your ship, and you see the engine trails, and then you zoom the camera in past the screen to your character's face to that like readout. There's like that readout on the neck.
See the pores.
What? Like, especially certain armor sets, you can zoom all the way in and be like, dude, this looks incredible. And then back all the way out, and you're like, it still looks incredible.
That is,
Other
yeah, the
games
scale
can't
is cool.
do that. Other games can't. They use all kinds of tricks to hide what we can see, what we can't see. But this is also why the game is not optimized yet. Like, there's no reason to, like, what's that one armor set that has a scrolling text on the neck?
Oh, geez,
and
that's
like,
an old one.
There's like, someone in the chat might know it, but there's like words scrolling on the neck of this armor all the time. There's no reason for that to always be readable. But if you zoom all the way in, you can read it. And every time I do that, someone in chat who's like not familiar with the game will be like, whoa, what?
I hope you can customize that text at some point. Have it
Dude,
say something.
exactly.
If you're this close, you're dead already or something.
Exactly. So if Gen 12 can make the game run even better than it does on a high spec machine now, 100% I'm in. Can't wait. I truly hope that it works, and I really hope that it works both for people that are using AMD GPUs for the FSR and people that are using NVIDIA GPUs for the DLSS.
Mm-hmm. I also think Gen 12 is going to be a great opportunity for them. And again, not to overhype the initial release, but hopefully by the time they've implemented the Vulkan API, it is a chance for them to finally put out proof that the time invested they've been putting into this engine, putting into building this stuff from the bottom up and actually making it work for the game itself instead of just, you know, adopting some other engine and some other technology, actually shows itself, actually shows that it's working and it's doing stuff, and gives them some, I guess some, gosh, what is the word? Just a little bit more bite to the fact that they keep on saying, hey, we're working on this stuff. We know it's taken a long time, but it's going to get somewhere. Like they need to start showing that kind of
some
results.
wins.
Yeah, and we've seen it a little bit.
Yeah.
The new locations coming in and stuff like that, but the optimization and the FPS would be huge because that's a big sticking point for this game for a lot of people.
Yep. Something I don't know, and I want to bring this up because I see it in chat being talked about. If there's anything they can do to make the game run better on 16 gigs of RAM, I think that would help this games community a lot because it's one of the most RAM-hungry video games on the market. Probably the only game I know of where 32 gigs is like the suggested amount of RAM. I think the general consensus in the world of PC gaming is still that 16 is enough. 16 is enough. But this one game is like, This one game is like, yeah, you better have 32 or at least have what's that called when you use an SSD to make like a RAM
cache file.
Yeah,
Something,
like
whatever it was called. Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
16 should be
I don't
good.
know if Gen 12 is going to help that out at all, but
I don't like to have to tell somebody that 32 gigs is needed. That's too much.
A page file. That's the thing, right? Like you make like a custom page file, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whatever. But Gen 12, I'm all in. What's the other thing other than FSR and DLSS that was a detail? You had another note about it.
Global illumination.
Yeah, more
ray
lighting
tracing and things like that.
Yeah. I think lighting already is beautiful in this game, and quite often I'm very impressed by it.
Oh my god!
I'm really looking forward to the caves once we get some more lighting techniques. Now, ray tracing is a difficult topic to bring up because I think ray tracing still lives in the highest of high upper echelons of like PC performance, like that.
The true gamers,
dude, like the true gamers who have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on their rigs, like that. Very few people can actually enjoy ray tracing without incredible amounts of optimization utilizing DLSS and FSR. They go hand in hand. It's like you gain all these frames using those AI upscaling techniques, and then you lose all these frames with ray tracing.
Yeah.
But in terms of a technical feat, I think it would be amazing for them to add into the game. And I would definitely turn it on for little screenshot parties every now and then turn it off.
Global illumination and like, I don't know if we've seen any space games with global illumination, but it feels like that is one hell of an opportunity to flex the lighting because you're getting refraction, you're getting different environments like inside of spaceships, inside of cities, outside of spaceships, floating in the atmosphere, all these chances to play with the light. That could be something special.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be really cool because I like playing with those lighting techniques in games that have it. I rarely use it in the gameplay because it's such a hindrance on performance typically, but just to like look around, like that game Control.
Yeah.
I don't know if you played that game that has really cool lighting effects so you can mess with. When they released the Quake ray traced redo of Quake, I thought that was so cool to play around with. But it's more like a future tech, like Star Citizen is a very ambitious game, maybe the most ambitious game of all time. So of course it needs to have the most ambitious graphical tech as well.
I think there's going to be a good time for it. It's not really important right now. It'll be great at some point in the future. Like you said, it's future tech, and it'd be nice to see it in Star Citizen. I'm excited to see what the engine team continues to do after Gen 12, but I'm really glad that's finally coming to some kind of a close, I guess the first major milestone, and I look forward to the future of it.
Totally.
But EnderPrize, thank you so much for joining me for episode 75, the launch sequence. This has been an amazing talk. We touched on a lot of really good topics today, and especially those dynamic events. They're always being brought up, and I think it's nice to look back at them retrospectively and kind of compare them and see how they're doing in terms of that progress. So thanks for joining me today.
Oh, yeah, man. We're out of time already? Is that it?
Yeah, but we will have a little short Q&A here. Right after we close out the episode. I had one more thing to say. Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was looking back at our notes. I didn't want to mess up your timing.
No. Please go ahead.
There are two letters in your notes. So chat, just so you guys know, I got the questions ahead of time.
Yes,
all right.
Yes.
I'm cheating. I got the notes ahead of time. And there's two letters I forgot to look at. There's two letters I forgot to acknowledge, and I feel like we should right now. And those two letters are
VR.
VR is, that's Sylvan loves that thing. Yeah.
It is a hot button issue with some, and it's one that I have a pretty firm stance on, and I'm really comfortable talking about it. I love VR, right? Like VR gaming is one of the most interesting, immersive, and unique things that you can do. It's like the only time that you feel as like, for me, someone in their 30s, you feel like a little kid, like watching a movie about the future. You're like, oh my God, I'm in that future now. I'm in that future, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't think with the current technology we have now in VR, I don't think Star Citizen should get VR across the whole game.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it should.
I would hope that VR is not a serious possible addition to the game for like at least another 4 to 5 years. I'd like to see VR hardware definitely improve before that point, because in terms of your viewing angles, like the FPS you can get in that, and just in general comfort for VR, I don't think it's there.
Correct.
It's doing very well, but
like when we look at VR that's done well, I think of Elite Dangerous back in like 2018. VR in Elite back then was incredible. Like,
no doubt.
It was the best VR game in the world, right? And I think the reason it works so well in that game is that you're not a person in Elite, you're a spaceship. And your perspective is always from inside a spaceship. And I think that works, especially with the current technology we have in VR. Once you start walking around, it's awkward. It makes you want to vomit for most people. And also, I think in an FPS VR environment, a keyboard and mouse or controller player is always going to be better and faster and snappier than you. Probably, right? However, I want to say that I think it'd be incredible if CIG added VR as a standalone aspect of Arena Commander.
Like
I think that would be
it work in the
incredible.
modules?
Yes, only Arena Commander. Arena Commander only, dogfight sim with VR support would be really cool. It would scratch that itch, if you will, for the VR community that wants that. And it wouldn't have to mess with the rest of the game and the FPS combat and the inadequacies of someone who has VR and someone who doesn't have VR. Like,
yeah,
I think it could be very cool in Arena Commander.
Yeah. Overall, I just hope that we see the technology and the game kind of both continue to improve until they meet at some point in the future when the time is right. Because oh my gosh, I can't even imagine playing Star Citizen in an actual immersive VR experience. And when I say immersive, obviously you can get great experiences already from VR, but something that doesn't weigh too much, it doesn't get uncomfortable, doesn't come with the, I forget what they called it, the glass door effect or whatever it might be, just
screen door
door effect. Yeah. Glass doors. The time will be right at some point, and I think Star Citizen would be a great game for it. I have no idea when that would be, but as long as Sylvan's at CIG, I do trust that it's going to be a thing at some point.
Yep.
Cool. Was that all you had?
There we go. That was the last thing I wanted to say. I think it would be amazing in Arena Commander. I don't think it would be good for the entire game based on the technology that we currently have in the world of VR.
Yeah. It's someday. I guess that's kind of the whole thing with Star Citizen.
Yeah, like the Ready Player One day, like the day where VR headsets are like regular glasses that don't weigh anything extra. Like that's a whole, that's very different already.
That's my kids. They'll be able to do that at some point.
Yeah. They'll be able to play the game on launch day.
Nah, they'll still be alpha testers. Let's go. Come on. Give us the claps. Super original jokes. We're good at that. We're great at that. All right. Anyways, man, thank you so much for this. Now, what we normally do for supporters after every podcast, supporters are able to join us in the Discord server every week and talk to the guests, whoever it might be for that week. But since we're doing it live this time, instead of jumping into that, we're going to go ahead and take just a 1-minute break here. And actually, we don't even need to take a break. I'm going to pull up questions. We've been dropping a link throughout this podcast, and anybody who has been following has been able to submit a question for us. And we're going to do about a half hour here where we'll just answer some of your Star Citizen questions. And then I will be hopping into the game, actually. So anybody who was listening on your favorite podcast platform or on my second channel, Space Tomato 2, thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to maybe give a like, post a review, go back and check some old episodes. We got some great guests and good topics. And I will see you all next time on episode 76. EnderPrize, thank you so much for being here. And I'll see everybody next week.
Peace. Go follow me on Twitch.
Okay. Now, give us just a couple seconds here, folks. We're going to go ahead and start back up with the Q&A. I just need to pull up the questions, and we'll get started. Now, like I said, do have limited time because I am planning on meeting up with my org here in a little bit. So we'll do as many as we can get through, but we will be a little bit limited. Let's see. Okay. And opening us back up. Hello, everybody. Hi, it's us. We've never been here before. Nice to meet you, though. I'm Space Tomato. This is EnderPrize, and we're going to be your hosts for today. Okay, no, in reality, this is the Q&A that is following Launch Sequence Podcast episode 75. Both will be on the same YouTube channel, but if you would like to see the podcast or listen to it regularly, make sure to check out the playlist or your favorite audio podcast platform. Now, we got some questions people have been giving us throughout the podcast, and we are going to go through and answer as many as we can here in the next 20 to 30 minutes. See if there's anything especially fun to answer. All right, first question here is, I own a 600i. Do you think it will still be manageable for me and a friend when resource management hits? What say you?
No idea. Like, resource management could mean so many things. Do you mean like carrying your own fuel into your ship so you can fly? Or do you mean like having a crew that operates the engineering console? Like, we don't know what resource management really means yet. Like, it's such an open idea. I think yes. I think when resource management hits, you'll still be able to fly that ship totally fine.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think they're going to make the barrier of entry, if you will, too high right away.
I think they are going to, it'll be more difficult. I don't think any ship will be impossible to fly because of resource management. I just think it's going to be an absolute pain. You know, like, you're going to be getting up from your pilot seat and doing a lot of things for a ship. If you go out and you take like a Polaris or something, right? And you're only one person and you get attacked by a couple of fighters. What can you do? You know, you set up your shields, run to a turret, try and take people out. Oh crap, your shields are going back down. You run back over, you handle the shields. Oh, a relay is broken. You go and replace that, back to the turret to shoot. Like, yeah. I think it just gets really cumbersome. Not that you won't be able to do it.
Yeah. And there's a reason there's so many ships in this game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they want to have the correct ship for the correct moment and the right number of people, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's important to think about, like, if you see yourself playing this game mostly alone in the future, maybe don't spend all your money on humongous ships because you're going to have a hard time flying them by yourself.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a reason that some of the ships are single-seater.
Mm-hmm. And I think the 600i is like right around the upper limit of one person feeling comfortable flying it. I think that's actually in the description or something when they were bringing out the 600i. It was like the largest of comfortably soloable ships. And, you know, it's not a battleship, so you don't need people necessarily to be on the turrets. There are turrets, but like you're not going into combat. So most importantly, you just need to make sure somebody is kind of keeping everything running.
You got to compare it to things we have now, right? A 600i is not a speedboat. It's a yacht. It's a yacht with multiple levels and a bar and a pool. Like, one person couldn't take a yacht out like that alone.
Yeah.
So one person probably can't take that ship out alone and do anything beyond go from point A to point B.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you could probably live on it, but you would still want to be a little bit more careful. I think 2 people is going to be fine on a 600i. That's the question, and I don't think you're going to have a problem with 2 people. Yeah.
Ultimately, final answer, it all depends on what resource management is.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, it does. All right. Not a great question, in my opinion. Don't come on now. Don't hate on your question. Every question's a good question, unless you're like
Oh, man.
asking a win question. Then that's a bad question. But what is your favorite ship so far for both of you? Ender, I'll let you go ahead and take that first.
Oh man. All right. So I think my favorite ship in the game I have two favorite ships. I'm going to say them both. My two favorite ships are the Gladius for solo activity, flying around, pew pew, land on a planet, put stuff in the ship, use the internal components, have fun showing off the fact that everything works, all the doors open, all that nonsense. And then if I need something more, I like the Cuddy Black because it comes in green and it's big enough to do almost anything in the game other than mining.
Cool. Assuming this is talking about in-game already.
I'm going to assume that.
Yeah. Gosh. I'm not huge on ships, and I think that's mainly because they can't do much yet. But I would say the Terrapin, the idea of the Terrapin is probably like top 3 of the ships I would need. Transporting data, finding data, pathfinding, like that's right up my alley. Besides that, probably the MSR. I would say the Spirit, it's not in game yet. And again, this is more about the idea of the ship than its actual like performance or specific specs. But I really like the idea of having a personal ship with a decent amount of storage, enough space for one vehicle, and the ability to bring a couple friends with me and have them be comfortable as well. And I feel like those two ships, that's kind of my range, 30 to 50 meters, that hits it perfectly. And if I can get a sleek ship in there where I'm flying from one system to another, whether I'm transporting some wine for a friend's party or taking a couple of bounties that I found in a city to another place, I have the space for it. That's what I want in a ship. So I think, yeah, MSR is probably number 1, Terrapin number 2.
I love that you and I answered different questions just now. I answered questions about ships that we use now and what we do now in them.
That's fair.
And you answered questions about ships that will be used for this and will have this, which I think is funny and interesting and also probably points to like our differences in opinion on the game right now and what we do in the game right now.
Yeah.
Because I constantly focus on the now. I focus on the now all the time. Like, for instance, I actually like the Arrow more than I like the Gladius for many reasons, but it doesn't have storage yet. It doesn't have all the cool compartments that open yet. It doesn't have all the buttons that light up on the dash.
Yeah.
So because of that, as someone who plays the game daily and wants to show off the game daily, I would rather use the Gladius.
That's what I was talking about at the beginning of the pod. Like there is a difference between looking at the game in terms of its development and looking at the game in terms of its gameplay. And
yeah, but those were great. Those are great different answers, though.
Yeah.
I really like that we both did that without even trying to. It's actually kind of cool.
I can't help myself. I just immediately go into what's it like. I honestly, I don't play the game that much right now, and when I do, I don't care what ship I take out. I take out whatever ship is at the station I'm at.
If I think about the ship that's done, that does all the things, like what that future far off, whatever, I think the Mercury Star Runner is my favorite ship.
Okay, cool. Then we got a similarity there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Personal favorite armor.
I'm gonna go with the Grim Hex Punk Rock Clash armor. The very, the one. I think it's called Clash. It has like the spikes on the shoulder. It's the most punk rock looking of all the armor.
One, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's probably my favorite armor set. It's the first one that drew me in. And I was like, oh, I want to get that armor. Where do I get that? I got to go to Grimhex. Where's that?
Yeah, I get you. I've got favorites from different sets. I like the helmet. One of my org mates, DJ Catmom, might be in chat right now, has been wearing this helmet that I really like, that I've been seeing recently. I also like the leg armor from a different set. Gosh, I can't remember what it's called. I like the TCS chest armor. Like I like the Inquisitor arms. Like there's different types of armor I like. None of them have really caught my fancy though. Like the Let's see. What is a game? I guess I really
There's
love
some-
Armor and
Go
Halo.
on. Okay, actually,
Nothing's
speaking
really
of Halo,
caught me like that yet.
there is a really heavy armor set that kind of has Halo vibes. It's called the Riptide. It's green.
Hmm.
It has a feature that made it unusable for a long time because the arm has these spikes, and those spikes used to get in the way of the mobiGlass. So you used to like never be able to use
Of
it.
course.
But I love the way it looks. It's part of that like Gangs of Pyro collection, I think.
Mhm.
There's like the green, the yellow, and the red. Pretty sure
Gotcha.
the green one's called Riptide.
Well, overall, I'm more drawn to light armors, so I'll wait until they keep doing a lot of that. But
Got it.
yeah, the armor doesn't inspire me that much just yet.
Next.
What person, even outside of a Star Citizen, do you want on the podcast or stream? I think I answered this on Wednesday.
Chris Roberts.
No, actually, I would really like to get Skill Up on the podcast because he's overall my favorite gaming YouTuber. I love his videos. I love his writing. I love his style. And I'd love to talk to him about games in general. I know he's got, as many do, he's managed to slip some jokes in about Star Citizen. I swear I'll be like, I have my Star Citizen content. You know, we watch all of our normal creators, the people who are making videos, Noobifire, Board Gamer, Supermac, like all these people are making YouTube videos. I watch those. I have a completely different set of people I watch for other gaming. And so I go to them, and every once in a while they break through the wall and they say something about Star Citizen, which you just don't expect. And it's always negative. You're like, dang it. They're like, yeah, this game came out and it was a laggy, buggy mess, but you know, at least it's not been in development for 10 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's somebody I would have. Is there anybody like from the industry that you'd want to talk to about Star Citizen?
I mean, it'd be cool to be able to chat with Jared.
That would be cool. Yeah.
I'd really appreciate that. We probably wouldn't even talk about this game though. We probably would not talk about Star Citizen at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Let's talk about he does a lot of other stuff. I mean, he's really big in tabletops, I think, and in the painting of the pieces. I don't do much of the painting, but I know that's really popular and a lot of other cool stuff to talk about, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to host a panel with David Braben and Chris Roberts.
Oh boy. Can we just throw in Peter Molyneux with that as well, just to round it out?
But we wouldn't even necessarily talk about our games. I think we would talk about like space games in general and see where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a really interesting
That'd be cool.
situation.
I think also Todd Howard. If I could get Chris Roberts, Todd Howard, and Peter Molyneux all at a table together to talk about the best game, I don't think that conversation would ever end. Okay, what's another question for both of us? How did watching from EQNX affect your opinion of the various panels versus watching from home last year? Or was it more or less the same for you? This one's more for you, I think.
All right, so this is a question for me. So for those of you who don't know, this year for CitizenCon, I flew from Brooklyn, New York, where I live, to Columbus, Ohio, to go to the Equinox LAN, which is hosted by Shadow of the Shadowkin org. And they had this beautiful LAN center all hooked up, and there was like 60, 70 people there. And I had a stream room where in the middle of this LAN center, I streamed all of CitizenCon. And then at the same time, there was like all this commotion going on outside with people playing the game in kind of a LAN environment. And after CitizenCon was done, I walked around with a wireless mic and camera set up, interviewing people on the show floor. And it was really fun. It was the first time I've ever done an IRL event like that as my streamer persona.
That's pretty
cool. And I had an absolute blast.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was really fun.
You get to meet a lot of people you haven't met before?
Yeah. The JRDF crew was there, so I got to meet a bunch of them.
That's cool.
Which was sweet, and also a bunch of other members of the community. Some of the some like followers and subs of mine were there. It was just a really nice IRL experience for a game that is primarily all only online.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cooler parts of CitizenCon that I still haven't gotten to do. Have you been to a CitizenCon in person?
No. Nope.
Yeah, so something on both of our lists, I guess.
So it definitely changed my entire perspective of the event, being in a real room with real people that I could then go out and talk to after watching it.
That's cool. Prefer it that way?
Yeah, it was great. Exactly. I encourage anyone out there to check out the list of Bar Citizen events. And if there's any that are near you, go to one. Go to them, because being able to interact in real life with the other people that feel passionately about this game is a pretty awesome, unique experience. And also, they want to hear about your Carrick way more than George from accounting at your job or whatever. Like, go there. You could actually have those conversations that you want to have in real life.
All right, another question. Do you think we'll see an underground version of Jumptown once the underground facilities are released?
I think that question is more like, do we think there'll be a dynamic event that focuses on the underground facilities? I could see it happening. Totally. Yeah. Especially what we've seen of those underground facilities. There seems to be lots of details, like elevators. There's that like circular kind of mine shaft or whatever that is. Like, the place looks big, that kind of Blade Runner looking brutalism design kind of complex. Like, I think there are gameplay options aplenty once they are completed and in the game. And CIG always likes to take advantage of any assets they have in the game. So I can see it happening.
Yeah. I don't know. I could see it, but I think I would be surprised. Because as ripe as it feels for a dynamic event, it doesn't feel like there's, maybe they are working with the gameplay teams as they're building them, but they won't have that much testing or results on how people actually play or move around them at that point. It might be kind of risky for them to design a dynamic event around the facilities if they don't know how well they play in the live environment just yet.
Oh yeah, I think this is way down the line. I don't think they'll be ready anytime in the next year or two.
Mm-hmm. So something that it's a possible location for future dynamic events at some point. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I can get on board with that.
Especially if we use Jumptown as the like detail in there, meaning that it's a go somewhere and like control that environment, like hold the location.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest problems I have with Jumptown is that there's only one way in to that building. That double door airlock system, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully these underground facilities will have more than one entry or exit to them, creating a much more interesting gameplay experience.
Yeah. I almost wonder if there's like where the line is between dynamic event and just something responding to quantum and creating an opportunity for more gameplay. It'll be interesting to see if there is an artificial line there or if it just kind of naturally progresses into something bigger. Okay, EnderPrize, this one looks like it's for you as well. How long is your beard? And do you have any words of encouragement for Tomato should he ever try to grow a beard like yours? That's not going to happen, folks. I can't. Yeah, it'll never be that mythic.
Yeah, look, it's what I got. It's what works for me. You know, I learned this a long time ago. When you realize some aspect of you makes you comfortable and is working in the world, just like lean into it and go with it. So as it became less here, it became more here.
And so the hair flowed from top to bottom.
Yeah, it works for me, dude.
Yeah, I'm not getting past this. This is like this is all I can do. And I keep this because my chin looks weird without it. So it'll stay like this and only like this, guys. Sorry. EnderPrize has got the beard locked down. You and Croncy, you guys have got it on lock. Another one, what does EnderPrize think pairs well with Star Citizen gameplay outside of the normal soundtrack?
Oh, interesting. So like music-wise, wow, okay. What's funny about this question is that, again, just like I focus on what happens in the game now as opposed to what will happen, I also focus on the fact that I'm a live streamer primarily, and DMCA and copyright laws keep me from playing a lot of the music I would like to play when I'm playing the game without utilizing all kinds of industry workarounds and muting music from the VOD. And I know there's always tricks to it. Like when I do drum streams, the VOD is muted. You don't hear anything, right? So if I could choose whatever music I wanted when I was playing the game, wow, I don't even know. That's such a cool concept and idea because everything I do is live on stream with you, you know? But if I could imagine that, I think it would be cool to do some delivery missions and listen to like some classic 70s rock and roll, like Led Zeppelin, kind of more psychedelic, like Pink Floyd kind of stuff when you're traveling the stars. I think that could be fun.
Yeah. Some stuff you can trip to.
Yeah, like, or for instance, like what if you were doing a lot of driving in game? Like we still don't have it, but I think it would be cool to get some kind of mission that forced us to drive from point A to point B on a planet. Like we couldn't fly. You'd have to drive.
I'm hoping we get that without the new outposts.
Yeah, like if we get something like that, I think it'd be very cool to just have like a 90s hip hop station. It's just all like, it's all Snoop and Mac 10. Like, I think that'd be great for 90s gangster rap driving on the planet. I think that'd be sweet.
That'd be dope. Yeah. I would love to see some obvious, I mean, this is like a given, but you know, the Western style music that you get in like Firefly, Serenity, or that other game, I think Rebel Outlaw Galaxy, like something that you can go and do some old school cargo hauling to with the acoustic guitars playing and all that stuff. I would love that. Call to Prayer is going on again, everybody, if you're hearing that. Sorry about that. This is not the music that I would specify for the game. But yeah, like that Western style stuff would be fun. Next question. What is your prediction for how long it will take for the AI to be as engaging for FPS combat as CIG envisions?
Could you say that again for me one more time?
What is your prediction for how long it will take for the AI to become as engaging as CIG envisions for FPS combat?
Oh, man. Dude, okay. How long anything will take in this game is such a loaded, difficult question to answer. I think it requires deep insider knowledge of what their tech is now and where they want it to go. And I don't know those answers. So I can't answer that question.
Yeah, we would have a very difficult time calling that out, but I don't think it's going to be until beta.
Yeah.
I just don't think that the systems will work together well enough for us to be truly and honestly. I think the AI will be challenging and scary to fight within the next couple of years as stability factors in with server meshing and stuff. I don't think that it's going to be top quality for a while, though.
Totally.
Last question for Ender. As a veg head, how do you rate tomatoes? Careful with this one.
I love tomatoes. They're not my favorite vegetable. I mean, my favorite. I'm sorry. My favorite is broccoli.
Oh, my Lord.
But
oh, gosh.
I like tomatoes. Yeah. I've been plant-based for 12 years, so clearly vegetables and I have a pretty good relationship.
That's cool,
I eat them all.
That's pretty cool. What is your source of protein?
Beans, tofu, quinoa, shakes, smoothies. There's so many things out there.
Love some shakes. Might be different shakes than you're talking about though, because I like the very sweet milkshakes with ice cream and stuff. But that's cool, man. I've tried to cut down on certain food groups and bolster up others, but I have this allergy to like a lot of fruits and veggies, which really screws me over. So
yep. That's always difficult when there's a food allergy in the mix.
Yeah.
For any diet.
Yep. It's a bummer. But anyways, that is the end of our Q&A session as well. I think let me see if there was any others here that like, there are a couple more here that are more specific to the stream.
When we're talking about AI in the game and AI working well and whatnot, now, and it's going to be forever. We know this. This is something I just now thought of, and I thought I'd say it. Why not? What if there was a way for a mission to spawn where players would become the AI in the bunkers? And like you had to stay in the bunker and like be that AI. What if there was a way for CIG to let players become the AI in certain small mission types?
So literally take over the AI's body, or they just take the job the AI have?
Yep. I mean, I guess the take over the job makes the most sense.
Like
but
you defend it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That could be interesting.
I think that could get around some of these problems in the meantime, but never mind. That's just a random idea.
Yeah, like agent smithing.
Yes.
Anybody who is talking in chat, we actually had a link where we are meant to ask questions. So I may have missed your questions, but I see one more here. I will go ahead and ask that one, and then we will be on our way. Do you think the new underground bases, we will be able to cut the lock-on ventilation shaft to go through the demo? And or also you asked about hacking. I think both of those things will be options there if they're in the game at that point. Now, they might or might not be. We've seen them demoed a lot, and we know they want to put them into these facilities. But if they're not in the game at that time, I don't think they'll be in. I mean, obviously they won't be in. But if they have been added, I do think they'll be in those locations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking the same thing?
I mean, yeah, I look forward to seeing what changes with hacking, because we know that whole aspect of the game is going to change.
Yeah. Hacking's
like
a lot bigger.
No more just have a chip and scan it and you walk away. Like we've already seen different renders of like a module that like clicks in underneath the desk, right?
Yeah.
Didn't we see?
Yeah, like this whole layout. There's a lot of going into way more than I thought originally they'd do for hacking. So that's going to be an interesting part of the gameplay.
Yeah, so it's a whole other area that I look forward to being in the game. You know, kind of anytime that they can give us an intelligent and rewarding mini game experience to do a thing, I think is worthwhile.
Yeah, same here.
As long as it doesn't become tedious.
And as
that's
long
the
as
trick.
It's adding into the game, definitely.
Yeah, it's got to add enjoyment. It's got to make that experience more robust and refined than just clicking a button.
Yep, absolutely.
But without being so much that now it's like a pain, or now it's irritating, or like it stops you from doing it. And also adding skill to there, I like a lot. I like when a mini game has a skill aspect that once you master it, you can start to like hone this craft. And of course, as this game moves forward, they want people to get better and better at certain things in the game. That's why mining has gotten more and more complex.
Yeah.
They want that to be specialized.
Yeah. So I'm interested in seeing what they do with hacking, especially as like a possible profession for people. If there is enough of that in the game for somebody to say, I'm going to specialize in this and get paid for it. But I do think that'll be in the underground facilities. Yeah. If it's done by then. But anyways, Ender, this is it. My friend, that was it's like 2 hours of solid content. A lot of good discussion, man. Thank you so much for joining me. This was our first Q&A. So anybody who enjoyed this, maybe you're watching the video, please let us know in the comments if you'd like to see more of these. We'll do them with supporters when we do these. Like I said, every week when we're doing this podcast, we do it every Friday or Saturday. And we do it live with supporters on Discord. We'll probably do more Q&As then if you guys enjoyed this. But for this one, I'd like to thank you again, Ender, for joining me for 75. Thank you, everybody who is here in chat joining live. We'll get this ended, and I will be right back. I'm going to reset the stream and go live right again, straight into Star Citizen, so we can do some org gameplay. So thank you all for being here. I'll see you all next week. Ender, thank you so much.
Everybody. See you later.
All right, folks. Like I said, I'm going to have to turn the stream off because I got to switch computers. But I will be right back in about 30 seconds. Okay, I don't know how fast it'll switch over, but I will be right back in a couple of minutes, all right? So stay tuned, and I'll see you soon.